We are Legally Sis. Welcome to our podcast.
The information provided in the show is for general informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice on any subject matter. No attorney-client relationship is created between you and Duran and Duran Schultz Law.
Hi! Welcome to Legally Sis. I'm Attorney Wen.
And I'm Attorney March. Welcome to our podcast.
So for today's episode, we will be discussing about the Kasambahay law.
Yes, our very beloved yaya, maid, or kuya driver.
So what is Kasambahay?
Kasambahay is a person who is engaged in domestic work for on behalf of a household.
When you say household, what does encompasses?
So this is really a work that is being done within the house. So it can't be a work that is generally applicable to office work or agricultural or commercial work.
Or what are the salient features of this Kasambahay law?
Okay, the Kasambahay law really is enacted for the protection of our Kasambahay. So it has a lot of rights given to our Kasambahay and also obligations imposed upon the employer. So let's talk about the rights of Kasambahay. So a Kasambahay would have the usual rights of a regular employee. One, you have service incentive leave of 5 days once you have already rendered 1 year of service. Number 2, you have a rest day in every week. Number 3, you should be given SSS, PhilHealth, and pag-ibig. Number 4, your salary cannot be deducted unless it is with consent of your kasambahay. Number 5, the employer cannot interfere with the disposal of the salary of the kasambahay as to how this kasambahay would want to spend it. So other features when it comes to rights of a kasambahay, which is not applicable to a regular employee, would be right to meals and lodging and medical. So of course, if you're staying at home in a household, especially if you are a live-in maid, you should be given your own adequate housing, adequate bed. And you should also be given adequate meals 3 times a day. Not just meals. The law specifically said it should be adequate. And if you are sick, the family should also pay for your hospitalization. So other benefits given to a kasambahay would be right to privacy. Because you are in a house, right? You are entitled to have your own space. If you need privacy, you should be given. There is also the right to communication. Not because you have a maid that you will detain that person. You will not allow that person to contact other persons or other people. Okay, kasambahay also is entitled to 13th month pay.
Right. So having a kasambahay, you need to follow the formalities of a contract.
It is recommended that the parties, the employer and the kasambahay, would have a contract. Mainly because, people have fickle minds sometimes. You forget what the rights you have given to the employee or the benefits you have given to the kasambahay. So it's best that it's in writing.
Are there any other requisite like registering it to some agency?
Yes, according to the Kasambahay Act, the contract has to be registered with the barangay. Actually, the Department of Labor has a pro forma form of Kasambahay contract. So if you are at a loss, you don't know what to write, you can look into the internet and ask for the form from the Department of Labor. Within that form, there are the usual contents of the Kasambahay contract. So these would be what are the benefits that you would be giving the Kasambahay, how many leaves you're giving, if it's over and above the usual 5-day incentive leave, the rest day periods, what day. You can indicate grounds for termination, or you can indicate a period of service. Should it be 6 months, 3 months trial period, 2 years? When can you ask for a loan, etc.?
Yeah. Having mentioned the DOLE a while ago, Department of Labor and Employment, do they have jurisdiction in cases when there are issues with respect to rights and obligations of a kasambahay?
Yes, just like any regular employee, you can go to the Department of Labor and complain when it comes to non-release of your salary, legal termination, poor working conditions, etc.
So you mentioned about loans a while ago being incorporated in the contract if there would be any. What are the usual terms if in cases a kasambahay contracted a loan, or just say the kasambahay damaged or unintentionally destroyed or damaged a toy of his or her
Alaga.
what are the usual thing that the
Employer or the kasambahay would have to remember.
yes
So under our act and the implementing rules and regulation, if there is a loan agreement between the employer and the kasambahay, the deduction for the kasambahay to be able to pay for the loan should not be more than 20% of the monthly salary. There is also a maximum amount that can be loaned. They should not be more than 6 months of the salary of the kasambahay. As to the deduction, when there is a damage or loss, say a toy, pinggan, or any things within the household, there is a prohibition against the deduction of the salary. But if it's really the fault of the employee or the kasambahay, then it is possible that it can be deducted. But of course, the kasambahay should be given a chance to prove her innocence, or to prove that it's not really her responsibility, or to prove that it is accidental, right? It's not really her fault, before the deduction can be made. And the same prohibition, the deduction cannot be more than 20% of the monthly salary.
Having mentioned about the salary, are the kasambahay covered by the minimum wages?
Yeah, actually, the kasambahay would have a minimum wage depending on the location, the place of work. So in Metro Manila, the minimum wage now for a kasambahay is already 6,000 pesos. You need also to tie that in with respect to the obligation of the Social Security, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig. Because under the Kasambahay Act, if the salary is less than 5,000 pesos, the employer should be paying for all the employer and employee contribution of the SSS and PhilHealth and Pag-ibig. But if it's anything more than 5,000, then it's co-paying, meaning the employee or the kasambahay should be able to shoulder the employee portion. Of course, if you are the employer and you are generous, you can assume all those obligations depending on your contract.
Are they entitled for medical insurance?
Not medical insurance, which is generally the HMOs that's given to employees in a corporation or in a work environment. But if the employee or the kasambahay falls ill, it is the responsibility of the employer to send the kasambahay to the hospital or the clinic. And it will be the employer's responsibility to pay for these hospital bills.
Is there a situation where the employer is allowed to deploy the kasambahay to another household?
Actually, that's very common, huh? And it's frowned upon. That is why it's necessary for you as a kasambahay, if you're listening, to indicate in your contract what are your duties and responsibilities. What are the things that you will be doing for this particular household? And I would mention particular household because you should only be serving one household. But it happens. But when it happens, it should be temporary. Like, for example, my yaya. I have a sister, you. You need your house cleaned, right? I can send her to your place to have your condominium unit cleaned a day every month. But when that happens, you have to pay my yaya for her work. And I cannot charge you and get the money out of her work. That's not allowed.
Yeah. It's unjust enrichment already.
Essentially, yes, yes. You're essentially overworking your kasambahay because in the contract, and or even if there's no contract, the industry practice is the kasambahay will only work for one household.
So going back to prior employment or at the time of employment of the kasambahay, are there necessary documents that you can ask your kasambahay? Because it's usual in an environment or a corporate environment wherein the HR or the employer asks for NBI documents and other stuff.
Yep.
So does it also apply in kasambahay?
Yep, that's a very good question. As an employer, you should also have a due diligence on your kasambahay because you will be living with that person day in, day out within your family home for a long period of time. And that person will be taking care of your food. That person will be taking care of your child, right? Or your driver will be taking care of your car, which can be expensive. You want somebody that you can trust. Because of that, the law allows the employer to ask for certain documents from the kasambahay. What are these? You can ask for a birth certificate just to make sure that person is 15 and above. You can ask for a medical certificate that that person is fit to work because you don't want to be hiring a kasambahay with medical condition, because remember, the medical condition will be paid by the employer when that person falls ill. And the third one would be the NBI, because you don't want to hire somebody who has a criminal record.
Or a fugitive from justice.
Correct. Because, there are a lot of situations. There's this bodol or somebody that would be stealing from your household.
Let's discuss about the salaries of the kasambahay. You mentioned a while ago that they're also covered by the minimum wages. So what is the form of payment of their salary?
It has to be in cash. No other form of payment. Because other families would say, oh, I gave you naman this and that. I gave you books, I gave you a bag, I gave you shoes. But it won't go towards the payment of the salary. It has to be cash. And the salary has to be paid at least once a month. You can't pay your salary of your kasambahay intermittently, like every 2 months. No, that's not possible. Every month at the minimum is okay.
How about the dismissal of the kasambahay? What are the usual grounds?
Okay, just like in any regular employee, if there is fraud, if there is misrepresentation, if there is gross negligence or analogous circumstances, if there's been a crime committed, then of course, as an employer, you can terminate the services of your kasambahay. On the other side of the coin, the kasambahay can tender her resignation or can sever the employment-employer relationship if there is an inhumane treatment. You are being verbally abused or physically abused. There is a violation of the terms and conditions of your contract. You're not being paid on time or you're not being paid in cash. You are not allowed to have your leaves. You're not given your rest days. You are not being taken care of when you're sick. You're still asked to perform work even if you're sick. Or there is verbal or emotional abuse from any member of the household. When that happens, then you can terminate your employment effective immediately.
You don't have to comply with the twin notice rule just like in a corporate environment.
No, there is none here. When it comes to the termination of the employment of a kasambahay, generally, if there is a contract date start date and end date, you want to comply with that. But if there's no stipulation, either party, the kasambahay and the employer, without cause, because if it falls under the causes that we've enumerated a while ago, then it can be immediate. But if your termination is without cause, either party should be giving notice of at least 5 days. If the kasambahay does not give the 5-day notice, the employer can withhold 15 days worth of salary.
This is just like the liquidated damages or damages in corporate settings.
Correct. And the cost of procuring the kasambahay can be charged to the kasambahay. Remember a while ago we discussed about the pre-employment check, like the requirement to secure NBI, medical clearance, and birth certificate. All those 3, when the employer requests for that, that should be for the account of the employer. So if the employee, which is the kasambahay, does not give the proper notice, which is 5 days, then the employer can ask that these expenses will be charged to the employee or the kasambahay.
Right.
I hope you learned something. Bye!